Hey guys, welcome to the Kim Iverson Show. Thank you so much for being here. We have a great show for you tonight. We are going to be talking to Jeremy Loffredo. He just got back a couple of days ago after being detained in Israel. He is a journalist with the Gray Zone. He was detained and charged with a very serious crime. The crime was aiding terrorists, is what they accused him of, and that was for releasing a video. He's a journalist. He was there doing reports, and he released a report of the damage done by the Iranian airstrike. Reports that had already been done by some other news outlets. Jeremy did very similar reporting for the Gray Zone and ended up getting locked up and charged with aiding terrorists, which carries a very serious crime penalty of life imprisonment, even the death penalty in certain cases. So very, very serious crimes. They held him for several days. They would not let him leave the country. They finally did let him go. RFK Jr., if you remember, stepped up and said some stuff saying, hey, I'm all for Israel, but we've got to release, but journalism is important and we've got to release Jeremy Loffredo. He's been released. He's back home. He's here to talk to us tonight. So we're going to find out about the entire ordeal, what he went through, what happened, and what is going to happen if he's still in trouble, if there's further legal issues that he's going to have to deal with. We're all going to talk about that with Jeremy tonight. But Jeremy, it is really, really, really good to see you. Thank you for being here. Really.
Yeah, truly. It's great to be back. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, I'm sure you're happy to be here and not where you just were. Um, all right, let's talk about what the heck happened. I mean, this
Mhm.
is it's okay. Tell us first of all why you were in Israel and what happened when you were detained. Why were you there?
Okay, so I originally went back to Israel, Palestine, to report on what has been going on in the West Bank, and so there has been, more frequent, raids and sieges in these refugee camps in the northern West Bank, like Jenin, Tulkarm, Nablus, where the army surrounds these refugee camps, shuts off the water. Now that there are resistance fighters in these refugee camps, they stop the military from coming in. So there's firefights. They've been using airstrikes, which have not really been reported on for the first time since the Second Intifada. So things are really heating up there. They're calling it a new front is opening up. So now you have the north, you have Gaza, and then now you have fighting going on in the northern West Bank. So my plan was to go there and cover, the destruction caused by these raids, the fighters and what was happening. I wanted to cover what was going on because no one was covering. Everyone was covering Gaza, and this was, a
Right.
short ride from Jerusalem. That was my plan. But I got there on October 1st, and October 1st is the date that Iran retaliated with the ballistic missile strike. And so I was there to cover what has been going on in the West Bank, but I just happened to be there when, this giant news story happened. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, let me put the West Bank on the back burner. Let me just make a quick report on this missile strike. So,
And
um,
you'd been to the
yeah,
West Bank. You'd been going over there. How many trips have you made since October 7th of 2023?
yeah. So when the war first began, I spent a month and a half in the West Bank, and then um, February, March of this past year, I was also there for about a month and a half in the West Bank and in the south of Israel.
So this was your third trip,
This
your
was the
third
third
time
trip.
back since the war.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
S-
before we move on,
mhm.
the other two trips, did you get? I mean, did they question you when you were leaving the airport? Did you fly in and out of Tel Aviv every time?
Yeah, I flew in and out of Tel
Okay.
Aviv every time, really without any hiccups. Of course, like it's Ben Gurion Airport. They question normal people who aren't journalists, who aren't political as they leave or they come. So yeah, I did get questioned. What was I doing there? Where was I? Who was I with? But never anything that stopped me from coming or going. Just questions.
Did you
Yeah,
tell them like I'm a journalist? I'm going to the West Bank. I mean, were you honest in your answers?
not entirely honest.
Right.
No, I wasn't entirely honest, but I said, I, I would say, I'm a journalist. I'm from America. I want to cover what's going on. It's very newsworthy. They say, "What do you want to do?" I say, "I just want to, bring the story back to America. very vague answers,
Yeah. I
and
think
it worked.
for people to know that is it's normal, I think, to give them vague answers. I'm
Hmm.
not just because I don't want people to have the impression that, oh, you gave vague answers in the first two trips, so that's why they targeted you because you weren't honest. I don't think anybody, if you're going in and you're going to the West Bank and you're going to be spending time with the Palestinians or you're a journalist, everybody's a little vague in their answers. I know when I went in, I was prepared to give a very vague answer as to why I was there
Yeah,
and
of
not
course.
necessarily, if they ask a direct question and you have, of course, you don't ever want to lie, right? But
No,
you
I didn't
don't
lie.
necessarily, yeah, but you don't want to divulge more than what they're
Hmm.
actually asking. So that's kind of, it's like a fine line to thread because they're notorious for holding people in the airport for hours on end and
Of
even
course.
actually putting people back on a plane and saying, you can't even
Hmm.
come in. You have to leave. They're notorious for this. So
And when they
people
when they
go
ask
in
me
and
when they ask me
go
what I'm
ahead.
doing, I'll say, I might report in Judea Samaria, and like I'll call the West Bank what a religious
What they
Zionist would call the
call it.
West Bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm being honest where I'm going, but I'm calling it something else because I know that
It
they
doesn't
like when
trigger.
people call it that. Yeah.
Good point to bring that up. That was something that was so interesting and confusing about being over there that is hardly ever covered in the media is that both sides have different words. They use
Hmm.
different names for almost everywhere is completely different. And you could tell
Hmm.
a person's political leanings, even
Yeah.
like inside of Israel and inside of Palestine, there's even different phrases amongst the in groups.
Hmm.
And you can tell how radical they are based on which term they're using. So, because there's a lot of Palestinians that will call Israel Israel, but a lot
Hmm.
of Palestinians will not call it Israel, right? They'll
Of
call it like
course.
the 48. Was that what
Hmm.
they're called? The 48
Yeah.
or,
Hmm.
and you could kind of tell what their feelings are about the state of Israel based on even just the words they're using
Yeah.
to
100%.
name the other place. And same thing on the other side. If they call it West Bank or if they call it Palestine or if they call it, but hardly any of them ever call it that. Most of them call it Judea and Samaria. But I think there's
Hmm.
even like more radical terms that help, yeah, that kind of define. So so
No, the
what you were
terminology is
doing
very
is
important. Yeah.
very, very important over there. So you were using the Zionist terminology
Hmm.
so that they weren't triggered thinking, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're a liberal
Hmm.
or a Palestinian sympathizer or something along those
Hmm.
lines." So that's smart. Okay.
Um, so the missile
And then
strike
on your
happened.
way
Yeah, go
out,
ahead. Yeah.
when you left Tel Aviv those other two times, were
Hmm.
you pulled aside and questioned, or did they just let you go through normal security? I'm just
I went
curious if
through.
they'd flagged you
You
prior
know,
to
at that
your
point,
last trip.
they I don't think it didn't look like I was flagged, even though I went there one time, published 4 or 5 video reports that were very critical of Israeli policy in the war. The second time, I was like, I don't even think they're going to let me in. They did. I didn't really get questioned at the airport, and on my way out, I also didn't really get questioned at the airport. I just the boilerplate questions: what were you doing? Who were you with? And as so long as you answer the questions quickly and it doesn't look like you're lying, they let you go.
But they didn't pull you through the secondary security that they do,
No,
where they
no,
search all. Okay, okay, I got that. So I don't even know if
no.
I'd be willing to go back if I'm able to go back in because they pulled me out of the group and they took me down a long hall into a separate room and went through all my stuff and yeah. So that was a different experience. So you didn't get even that. So you
The
just
first
went
two
through
times I did not get
normal.
that. No.
Okay, okay, all right. So and then coming in the third time, this time you did you have any issues getting into the country the third time?
Well, this time, my flight. So I was taking a flight from New York to Madrid to Tel Aviv, and when I had a layover in Madrid, and then my flight to Tel Aviv was canceled due to security concerns. So I actually had to
Okay,
fly to Jordan and go into Israel through the crossing.
got it. Okay, so you went in
Uh,
through the other way.
yeah, and
All right, so you're there, and it's the day that Iran
mhm,
strikes.
yeah.
And
So
what did you do?
that happens at night. The strike happens. It's you hear it in the air. No one's targeting Jerusalem. No one ever targets Jerusalem because it's everyone's um, you know sacred holy land. No one targets Jerusalem. That's where the Al Aqsa Mosque is. So like no Arab country wants to target Jerusalem. So you're safe in Jerusalem for the most part. But you hear everything. You see the missiles flying in the air. You hear some of them getting intercepted. You look at the news. They sent 200 missiles. You see in the news that some of them landed near Tel Aviv. Some of them landed near the Nevatim Air Base in the Negev Desert in the far south. Um, I had no plans to cover this. but everyone was talking about it. I decided, I'm going to file a report. I think the most interesting way to do this would to just be try to track down where the missiles landed, and that could be the report. So the next day, I drive down into the desert, and it's an air base. I can't get anywhere near it. I don't even want to get anywhere near it because it's a very sensitive area. So I drive past it. Me and my driver, I asked some Bedouin communities, like Palestinian communities that are in this desert around the airbase, if they heard the missiles, where they think they fell, what happened when the missiles, fell around them. Do they know where any of them fell in the desert that missed the base? And finally, after trying, a few different communities, one guy says, yes, I'll take you to it. So we're in the middle of the desert, about a mile and a half from the Nevatim Air Base, and there's a missile lying on the ground. I document the missile. I take a video of it. I interview the Bedouin community about what it was like when it fell, and that's it. And then I go to Tel Aviv, and just using NBC NewsHour reports, ABC reports, some Israeli media, and some videos online showing where the missiles fell in Tel Aviv, I was able to figure out like a building and find that building in this neighborhood. And soon enough, I found where this big crater was from a missile. It was already filled in. I just took a video of the crater, a video of some of the cars that had debris on them, and I put it all together. And I said, I looked for the missiles, and I found some destruction. I found some where they missed, and here you go. And it wasn't that groundbreaking of a report. The information in the report, here and there, had been reported on already by the media in other places before me. But it still was interesting to see me traveling and talking to the Bedouin communities near the airbase, showing where in Tel Aviv the missile fell, how close it was to the Mossad headquarters. But I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was a very kind of a forgettable report. The information was not new. So I finished that. And now my priority was going into the northern West Bank and reporting on what I went there to report on. And so I do that, and I am at a checkpoint in Nablus, which is a city and also a refugee camp in the northern West Bank. And this is my first day reporting on this. This is going to be what I'm doing the next 3 weeks. And I'm at the checkpoint. The army soldier asks for our IDs. And, like at any checkpoint, I hand over my ID. I hand over my press card. I say I'm American. The other people I'm with they're Israelis, but they have other passports from other countries. So they show the army their other passports, because Israelis aren't allowed into certain parts of the West Bank. And they come back. They say, all right, everyone out of the car. So we get out of the car, and he asks for all of our cell phones. So I hand over my cell phone, because truly, like everything, my phone's locked. First off, I know they can't get into my phone, but if they were able to get into my phone right on the spot, there's nothing in there that's illegal. I'm not a criminal. I'm a journalist. So if I'm reaching out to people in Nablus, maybe they would consider them, terrorists, but it's valid journalistic inquiry for me to interview these people. And other journalists have been doing that for years. So I handed over my phone. One of the journalists I was with refused to hand over his phone, and he was dragged out of the car, and guns were pointed at him. He was hit in the face, and then they finally took his phone. So they got very violent.
So they beat him.
They beat him in Israeli. Yeah.
And he's in Israel. So you were with how many other people in this car?
We had a Palestinian driver,
a
Palestinian driver, and me, and then 3 journalists from Israel.
So there were 5 of you total.
Yes.
1 Palestinian, 3, 4, and the other
3 Israelis and myself.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So they have our phones. We're sitting on the dirt, and someone says, like, "Why are you doing this to us?" And they said, "Intelligence." So like they called in our passport numbers or our identities, and someone at the base or the compound said, "Keep them there." And then after maybe an hour of sitting in the sun, they say, "Loffredo." They point at me. They tell me to come there. I say, "What's happening?" They say, "You're being arrested." And they pull out like maybe 25 feet of like cloth. It's a blindfold. They wrap it around my head, dozens of times. My eyes, my ears, my almost like part of my nose is covered. They zip tie me and they shackle me, and they do that to all of us, and they put us
And
all in a military
that's,
truck.
do you know if that's a standard procedure for when they go
No,
and arrest people to
no.
not just cuff them, but to wrap their whole heads and
I've only
zip
seen that
tie?
done to Palestinians before. Like I've seen pictures of the Palestinians being arrested in different villages, and they get zip tied and they get their eyes and all of their senses messed up on their face by these 20 feet of blindfold. But I've never seen it done to international journalists or even Israelis. Like that's unprecedented. And the Israelis I was with, they were really spooked because they themselves have been to checkpoints in and out of the West Bank. They've been dealing with the Israeli army their entire adult lives, and they've never seen this happen to actual Israelis, let alone journalists or international journalists. So right away,
Especially
we were,
an
yeah,
American. Are you an American or are
yeah.
you Canadian?
I'm an American. I only have an American passport.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So they put us all in a military truck. We're blindfolded. We're crammed in there. They drive around arbitrarily for an hour. It doesn't seem like they have any destination. They're just driving to kind of like confuse us, I guess. And they're speaking their broken English. The Israeli soldiers, they're saying, "You love Israel? Do you love Israel? Do you love Israel? I'm Israel High." And they're making us say things. They're asking us to say things.
So wait, all of
Taunting
you
us.
are in this van at
Yeah,
this point? All
yeah. We're
five
all
of
in the
you?
van at this point. Yeah,
And you're
actually,
the
all
only one
four
that,
of us. Four of us. The Palestinians in a different somewhere else. He did not come with us.
did they let him go or did they detain him somewhere else?
They detained him somewhere else, but he was let go shortly after the same day.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, so wait, so you're in this and you're the only
Mhm.
one that's still without your senses. Like
No, no,
everybody else is just,
we are all blindfolded. We're all
oh, now
blindfolded,
you're
shackled, and
all,
zip
so they
tied.
did it to all of
Yeah,
you
yeah,
now
they
at this
arrested
point.
all of us. Yeah, so long as we
But
were
they did
arrested,
the
that happened to all
whole
of us.
like
Yes,
they did the
everyone.
whole, okay, to all of you. Okay.
Hmm. They did it to all of us. They drive us around, and then they put us. They move us from a military truck more to a police truck. So like from a Humvee to like an SUV, and then the
Hmm.
SUV drives maybe 1 hour out of the West Bank towards Jerusalem. It's called the Kalandia checkpoint. It's like there's a big military compound in the West Bank. It's sort of the headquarters of the military of the West Bank, and that's where we all went to from the Nablus. So we were all let out of the car. We all went into this, different holding cells, and within maybe 45 minutes, everyone was let go except me. So
At this
that's where we're
point,
at.
so they were driving around aimlessly, which is important to
Mhm.
know that this place is not very big. So to be driving around for an
Mhm.
hour,
Yeah, of
it's like
course.
nothing takes that long,
Mhm.
really,
Yeah.
to get anywhere. So they were just driving around to drive because they
Mhm.
probably didn't know what the heck to do. Maybe they were
Mhm.
waiting for orders. Maybe they were
Yeah,
waiting
there was
for,
a lot of that. There was a lot of them acting like they are doing things aimlessly or to bother us, but it
yeah.
was obvious that they were under the control or under the they were just waiting for their higher ups to tell them what to do with us.
And how many of them were there?
I don't know. I was blindfolded.
Okay, so but there were
I
multiples of
hear
these.
voices. Yeah, yeah. I don't know exactly how many.
Yeah.
Maybe three, maybe
Okay.
four.
And at this point, they knew the other three were Israelis because originally they showed them their other passports from their other countries that they have dual citizenship in. But
Yeah,
did they
I'm
eventually ever show them
I'm
their Israeli passports?
no, yeah, I'm sure at this point they call in their passports. There's probably some database, of course, at the head office, and at this point they know they're Israeli. So we all think we're in trouble at this point. Well, I don't know why I'm in trouble because I'm an American. I'm allowed to be in Nablus. I'm a journalist, but we do know that the other people I'm with are actually not allowed in the places that we were trying to go to. So
Because they're Israelis. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so I'm thinking like I'm with them, so I'm just like I got caught up in this, but they're not going to jail. It's just like they're getting reprimanded. They're going to get told to go home or stay out of the West Bank for 2 weeks or something like that.
Got it. Yeah.
Um,
And then that turned out not to be. So then they let those other three go. And did they tell you? So at this point, you were just in the van or in the SUV and they let them go. Did they say anything
well, like
about
we
why
we
they were?
go we go to this police compound in the West Bank. We
Or-
all go there. Um,
Okay.
and then maybe after 45 minutes, they spoke to all of them individually, and I'm in a holding cell and the door's open. And I see them all walking away, and they don't have handcuffs or shackles on anymore, and they have their bags. And I say, what are you guys doing? And like one of them looks at me and they says, like, without looking me in the eyes, like very guilty, says like, they're letting us go, and just keeps walking. And I'm thinking like, okay, so now it's just me. Um,
So then they're
um,
going to let you go, you're thinking.
yeah, I'm thinking I'm next. It makes sense. They're Israeli, I'm American. Maybe there's different protocol, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm there for maybe another hour in the holding cell without speaking to anyone. And then finally a detective comes in and says, there's a lawyer on the phone for you. I say, okay. I'm confused. I go to this office. They close the door. I answer the phone. I say hello. And this lawyer, with a really, chaotic, concerned tone, says, Mr. Loffredo. I say, of course. How are you? She says, you're being charged with giving information to the enemy during wartime. This is a very grave offense. Do you have any idea what you might have done? I got the chills. I was like, no, I have no idea. This must be a mistake. I have no idea what I did. This is insane. And while I'm on the phone, I hear my voice in the office next to me, and they're watching my report that I filed a week before. They're watching it. So I'm thinking, okay, this has to do with my video report. I hear them watching my video report. So
Well, first of all, who was this lawyer? Did they identify themselves? Are they your lawyer?
So yeah, no. What happened was the people I was with, because they're in and out of the West Bank all the time, they have like stickers on all the backs of their phones with like an NGO that represents activists and journalists. So I'm assuming when they left and they kept me there, they called this human rights NGO and said like, Jeremy Loffredo, he's a journalist, he's still in the jail. You got to get him a lawyer. And so this lawyer was from a human rights NGO inside of Israel.
I'm a little confused. Who do you think made that call? Do you think that it was the IDF that made that call?
No. It was the group of journalists that were let go as soon as they got out and saw that I was staying there. They called a lawyer for me.
Okay.
So the phone call was
So that's
brief.
who this lawyer. Okay, so this was a quick call from this NGO attorney who's representing
Yes.
you, telling you that you've now been with these extremely serious crimes.
Yes.
You're hearing them listening to your video. So then
Yes.
did you say to the lawyer, well, I think it might be this report I just did? I guess
Yes.
that's what they're talking about.
I said I filed a report recently, and she says, she speaks broken English, so we're not communicating that well on the phone. And I'm trying my best, and we only have like a minute to talk. And I'm telling her there's a video. She's like, "What do you mean a video?" I was like, "No, I published a report about the missile strike." And she said, "When? What missiles?" And like, I'm trying to put this all together for her in the span of 30 seconds, unsuccessful. The phone call ends. She says, "Well, they're going to arrest you, and they're going to bring you to prison after they interrogate you, and I will see you in court tomorrow." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, I'll see you soon. See you later."
Did you get any other calls? I mean, it seems like at that point, if you have an attorney, I mean, it's
No.
great you've gotten an attorney, I suppose, but you've got one that you said doesn't really speak English that well. I mean, wouldn't you immediately want to make a phone call to the US, to somebody over here who can maybe get you a different attorney?
I wasn't. It wasn't. They have a different type of system there, and like I wasn't asked whether, I mean, like now skipping ahead a little bit, like I was never asked if I wanted to make a phone call. I was never allowed to call my attorney on the phone when I wanted to. And even when I was able to talk to my attorney in person or on the phone, it was only for maybe 30 seconds to a minute and a half. And they would either demand her to leave, take me away from her, or walk in and stand near the phone as if to say, hurry up the phone call.
Do you know if that is standard, if that's just their laws for everybody and anybody, or were they treating you differently because sometimes laws change for military, military law is a bit different than I guess civilian law. Do you know which law you were being subject to and what rights you were afforded?
I mean,
If
I don't know. I don't know the penal code or the laws, but I do know that like when this stuff would happen, my lawyer, who her name is Leah Samil, she is, she's 80 years old. She's been representing journalists and activists and Palestinians in Israel since she's been, 30 years old. She's been doing it for so long, and that when this would happen to me and this would happen to us, she would act like it was normal. So like she wasn't surprised. I was definitely getting treated differently because the crimes were so grave. Like they were treating me like a terrorist.
yeah.
Like they weren't saying this is a journalist who broke a censorship law. This is a journalist who didn't listen to the I was on a tourist visa, but I wasn't getting paid in Israel. So they could have. It wasn't like I made a little mistake with the paperwork, or I wasn't carrying myself according to the laws. I was like, no, I'm aiding and giving information to an enemy during wartime. Like this isn't a like they're not treating me like a journalist. They're not treating me like an American. They're treating me like an enemy of the state.
Terrorist.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the treatment I was getting.
Let me ask you real quick before we move forward, because
Yeah.
this would have to do this would, I think, affect your answers, like our
Mhm.
conversation. Are you in any legal trouble right now still, or are you free and clear? Are you at risk?
Well, the case is still open
Okay.
in Israel. So I'm not in any legal trouble in America. But if I were to go back to Israel with an open case for aiding Iran during wartime, I'm sure I would be detained immediately at the airport and be subject to the same treatment I got when I was there before. So I'm fine now, but like obviously I wouldn't be fine there.
Okay. Right. Okay. And then what about extradition? Do they have any extradition treaties with any nation? So if they decided to pursue the case without you and they decided to deem you an actual terrorist or whatever, let's just say, is there any sort of extradition agreement that any country has with Israel that would require you to be there?
That's a great question, and I wish I knew the answer, but it's honestly a question that I have not even been thinking about because I'm hoping to God that something like that doesn't happen. I mean, like
Yeah, me
I
too.
don't. I'm hoping
Okay.
no one shows up at my door right now, but like I don't think that's gonna happen.
All right. Okay. So while you're being detained, so you get this attorney, they're only letting you talk to her so at this point, you've only spoken to her once. She's telling you these grave crimes. Did she tell you what the consequences were for those crimes? What the potential?
Um, she, I don't think she told me at this point. I remember learning about it. I think the first day in court, and it was it was the worst thing to hear in the world. Like, I'm thinking like,
Okay.
uh, you know,
Okay, before we get to that.
yeah,
So
go
at
ahead.
this point, you're still in a holding cell. Are
Mhm.
you, but you can see at this point because they must have taken off the blindfolds because
Oh
you
yeah,
could
no.
see your
Once
colleagues.
I get to the place, they take off the blindfold. They take off the zip tie and replace it with real handcuffs, and they
Okay.
keep on the shackles.
And are you alone? You're alone in a cell by yourself?
Yeah, it's not a jail. This is a police compound, and they have like a few holding cells, and I'm in one of them. And actually, let me add, before I spoke to the lawyer, while I was still in the holding cell, while they maybe were deciding what to do with me, um, I was getting asked to leave the holding cell, and they were walking me upstairs, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what's happening? And they have a big, a flag that they set up. They moved it from the office to the hallway, and it said "Together we will win" in Hebrew. It's a nationalist slogan for wartime, and they were taking photos of me in front of it with their cell phones. It wasn't an official thing. Like they have some IDF group chat. So like they were just taking photos, laughing, and then like yelling at me and saying take it back to the cell. And so I was confused. They're speaking Hebrew. They're taking pictures of me with their cell phones. I don't know what's going on. So
So
that's what's
this is
happening.
just for their social media. So for their
Yes,
social media accounts.
these are just their cell phones. They're taking pictures and laughing in Hebrew. Like they're yelling at me, telling me not to smile. They're telling me to move over, move this way. Like it's truly for their entertainment.
Wow. Okay. Do you
Yeah,
speak Hebrew?
no,
Okay. So you don't understand what
I
they're
don't understand what they're
saying.
saying. No, not at all.
Mm. Okay. So, and while you're in this cell, do you ask for water or for the ability to go to the bathroom? Do you need medical attention? Did they
I
hurt
don't need
you?
medical attention. They didn't hurt me. I asked for water just not because I was thirsty, because I wanted to see like how they'll act if I ask for water.
Right.
They,
Right.
you know, they brought me a little cup of water.
Okay.
Uh, and
So
that's where we're at.
you speak to the attorney, you find out you're being charged.
Hmm.
This is how many hours into this now would you say from the time you were taken?
We probably were taken at 2 p.m. and now it's probably 10:30 p.m.
So this has been a while. So then what do they do with you? Now you're being charged and you're arrested, I suppose,
Well,
officially.
so I talked to the attorney. She says you're being charged. So like the timing of talking to the attorney was like they let you talk to the attorney directly before the interrogation, essentially. So I hung up with the attorney. The detective comes back in the office. And I sit in the chair, and he calls some Russian lady on the phone, and she speaks broken English. And this is supposed to be my translator for the interrogation. It's just a cell phone and a lady who barely speaks English, a little more than this guy does, the interrogator, and that's how we're communicating.
Did the attorney, when you were on the phone with her before this interrogation, give you any pointers for the interrogation?
She said they're going to ask for your phone. They're going to ask for you to unlock your phone. You don't have to do that, and you don't have to answer anything. She gave me exactly what you expect an attorney to say before an interrogation. Nothing special, nothing that I didn't already know, honestly. But I mean, it was nice. It was good that she said don't unlock your phone, because maybe just
Yeah,
because I was frightened, I would unlock it knowing that there's nothing illegal. But she said don't do it. So
that's
that's one thing that I
okay.
listened to. Yeah.
Okay. So now you're in this interrogation. They've got this broken translator on the phone,
Mhm.
and they and then what happens during this interrogation?
It's like maybe a 15-minute long interrogation. They asked me if I know anyone in a foreign military. They ask me who told me to make that video report. They ask me if I'm familiar with the military censor in Israel. Um, they ask me when I made the report, how close I got to the different sensitive military installations, who drove me to these places. Um, just those questions, where I was like super prepared to answer these questions because I knew the answers, and I knew that it wasn't illegal, and I knew that it's already been done inside this country before, with this exact story. So I was confident in answering these questions. I wasn't even scared because I knew the answers, and I knew I could be honest, and I was kind of direct, and I knew what I was saying. And the only problem was I could speak as clearly as possible. It's being translated through someone who doesn't speak English to a guy who doesn't speak English. So he's transcribing the interrogation. He doesn't know what I'm saying. This lady doesn't know what I'm saying. So, and this interrogation transcript is going to be handed to a judge. So the only thing I'm scared about is he actually recording this correctly? These are nuanced things I'm saying. I'm adding tons of caveats to my answers. How much of it is actually being, recorded and put on record and going to be given to the judge? So maybe it was over in 15 minutes, and then they re-handcuff me with new handcuffs, reshackle me with different shackles. And one of the intelligence officers puts me in an unmarked car and drives me to the Russian compound in Jerusalem where my prison is.
I bet you the guy that was interrogating you spoke perfect English. I mean, there was
Yeah,
this.
no, truly, because there were times where I would say something, and before the translator could even tell him what I said, he would look annoyed, and he would look like he understood what I said.
Yeah,
Um,
he spoke perfect English, but they did this whole making you go through the it was just to be upsetting for you. It was,
to make it as
everything
confusing as possible. Yeah.
right, psychological and right and also maybe to even get away with writing their own answers, right?
Hmm.
Writing their own translated answers rather than your nuanced answers down, like recording it
Yeah,
properly.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So then they take you to this other place.
They take me to a prison in the Russian compound, which is in Jerusalem, and it's not far away from the Jerusalem magistrate's court. So it's the court I'm going to in the morning is 300 feet away in the same compound as my prison. So I get taken to the prison. Um, they give me sandals because they don't let you wear boots in there. And they put me in a solitary confinement cell, and that's where I stay that's where I stay for the next 3.5 days. But that's also where I stay just until my court hearing the next day.
So tell us about this cell. What was that
It
like?
was maybe 8 feet by 10 feet. I didn't have any cellmates. It was meant for. I don't know if they gave me my own cell because I'm American, or if they gave me my own cell because my crime was so grave. It wasn't. I was not throwing stones. I didn't make a Facebook post, commemorating people who are dying in Gaza, which is probably why most of the Palestinians are in that jail. That I'm being accused of, being, with anti-terror laws essentially. So I don't know if it was because I was American. It was nice of them to give me my own cell, or if they were giving my own cell because I'm a very,
Right.
I'm
Risky
a very
person
serious
or
prisoner.
something.
Exactly,
Did,
exactly.
did you see if other prisoners had shared cells?
Other prisoners did have shared cells,
How
and
many
even my
people were
own
typically
my own cell had
for?
four concrete bunk beds, but there was only um, it's not a mattress. It's like a pad on one of them for me. So like the other
Okay.
cells, there was pads on all four of the mattress, on all four of the beds, and that's, you know, 4 person per cell.
So it's this 8 by 10 tiny
Mhm.
room, and on each side there's two, I would imagine, two different
Yeah, two
bunks.
two concrete bunks exactly, and there's
And was there a
graffiti.
sink or a
There's
toilet,
cigarette
or
butts like everywhere.
oh,
Yeah,
it was dirty?
it was so dirty. It was disgusting. It was like the concrete was so old that in all of the corners of the whole room, like there's just debris from broken concrete. Um, something that you would see outside. It looked like it was weathered. Um, and then there's a steel toilet and a sink. And that's it.
Just like in the open. So if there were four of you, you'd all have to just go to the bathroom in
Oh, if
front of
there
each
was
other.
four of me, like I don't know what I would have rather had, because it was really crazy mentally to be in solitary confinement. Like it was a really strange feeling that I've never had before. But it would have been also very bad if I had, three cellmates that were, really problematic and horrible.
Right. Was there a window at all?
No.
So was there a light?
Yeah, there was like a one fluorescent light, and there was like, a steel door, and the slide opens, and they would check on me. During the night. They would, like, as if I was like able to escape this room somehow. They open the slide really loud in the middle of the night, and they shine a flashlight at me in the middle of the night for a few seconds just to like wake me up. They would say that they're making sure I'm still there, but they did that probably every like 30 or 45 minutes during the night.
Every 30 or 45 minutes they would do that.
Yeah.
Did you have a
Sometimes they
blanket
wouldn't.
or a pillow?
I did not have a pillow. They gave me a blanket though, and I would use my sweatshirt as like a blanket.
And did you say there was a sink? You said there was a toilet. Was there a
A
sink?
sink and a toilet, yeah.
Did they give you a cup for water at the sink?
They did not give me a cup, and I was denied water probably 90% of the times that I asked. Um, and I was given one cup of chocolate pudding over the course of like 3.5 days.
What?
Yeah,
So they were starving you,
yeah.
and they didn't give you, and how often would they give you water?
I probably got like two like Dixie cups of water per day.
And could you drink the water from the sink, or was that not
I,
sanitary?
I could if I used it like like a water fountain. I could just drink it from the sink, but it did taste like so unbelievably like metallic, and like it sounds like a very privileged thing to say that the water tasted weird, but like I didn't. It wasn't quenching my thirst. I felt like I was drinking something other than water. But it was definitely water, but I didn't like it.
So, did they ever let you out of the cell for like exercise or to go
No,
eat? Oh, I mean, I guess they didn't take you to eat anywhere. They gave you a cup of pudding.
no, they didn't. They didn't take me out of the cell. But I was so. Let me tell you, like, I'll give you the 3 days because that will also give you context of what happened in the cell and what happened when I was not in the cell. So I spend the night there. Um, Around 11 a.m. or noon the next day, they open the door and they walk me with. They put on shackles. They put on the handcuffs again. They walk me to a police van. I get in. The police van drives for a few minutes. It shuts off. I get out. They walk me into court. So I'm sitting there. I see the court. This person introduces themselves to me. It's the lawyer. We
The one that you
exchange.
spoke to on the phone.
Yeah, we exchange
Okay.
maybe a few words, and that's it. I'm not like so. Like, I know what to argue. I know why I'm innocent. But like now, I have a lawyer who not only doesn't really understand English, but she doesn't know like she watched the video, but like she doesn't understand how to argue that the video is totally legal. I know that like I don't know how to tell her what to argue. I almost wish I could have represented myself in the beginning because I knew all the answers to all these questions. But I also am in a court where everyone's speaking Hebrew. I don't know what's happening.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Um,
And what nationality is she? And what is
so
in what language is she?
she's her name's Leah. She is Israeli. She was born in Haifa, Palestine, before Israel was a state, and she's been her whole career has been representing, you know, journalists that get in trouble, Palestinians that get in trouble, and now an Israeli activists who get in trouble in the West Bank. And
So she's
she's famous.
Palestinian, and
No, she's Jewish.
oh, she's Jewish Israeli. Okay.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
Jewish
So
Israeli.
Does she speak Arabic too, or
Yeah,
she
she
only
speaks
speaks?
Arabic
Okay,
and Hebrew. She speaks both.
okay, okay, got it. So,
But I didn't know who
but
she
not
was at
English.
that point. I didn't know who she was at this point. Like everyone's telling me, like she's really good, she's famous, she's really great at this, and it's like, okay, well, like I can't speak to her,
But at
and
this
I don't
point, you're
know.
frustrated. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I understand. So like at this point, you're frustrated. You don't know who this is. All you know is she doesn't really speak very good English.
Hmm.
You don't really think she knows your case. So you're
Hmm.
frustrated because your
Hmm.
life is on the line. So that would be very, very frustrating. Luckily, it turns out she must have been a good attorney, actually. But
Yeah,
you didn't.
she was great,
But at
and I just had to
that
tell her a
time,
few
you didn't
things.
know.
No, I did
Okay.
not know. Did
Um,
not know. I'm in the court. The prosecutor, the police say we want to keep him in detention for 7 more days, and that will allow us enough time to build our case, go through his phone, go through his laptop, and interrogate him more. And so we need 7 days. And um, the lawyer says, it has been reported on in Israeli media. At this point, she's only really repeating what I told her. Um, it's been reported on in Israeli media, American media. Nothing in the video is secret. And they say, no, it is secret. And the judge asked the prosecutor, the police, why do you think he's a threat to Israel if you're just saying his video was like broke censorship laws? And they say it's top secret. And the judge doesn't really believe them. So the judge says, okay, instead of 7 days, I'll give you guys one more day. You comb through his stuff, you interrogate him, and we'll be back here tomorrow.
okay.
So I get taken back to my solitary confinement cell for one more day at this point. Um,
Okay. So you're in that cell for this day so he says, I'll give you guys one day. So you know
mhm.
that the next morning you're going to have to appear at court again.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get
Which is like at
24
least
hours in this cell.
another 24 hours, which is like horrible. But at the same time, at least I've been to court now already. I know what my cell looks like. I know what the processes of bringing me to the court. Like I have a little more understanding of my situation and like what's going to happen in the future, which is like something I did not have until then.
I mean, it must be just totally frightening. So you're right. Even having a little information
Mhm.
just helps calm those fears slightly.
Yeah,
Just
truly.
knowing a little bit about what's happening next. Now you've seen the lawyer. At this point, I mean, did they give you a toothbrush? I mean, did they give you
Yeah,
any way
I don't know
to?
if they give other people the toothbrush and stuff, but the intelligence officer who brought me from the West Bank military compound to this prison, he was like he was he was kind of confused. Like, why are we doing? Like, you could tell he was kind of nice to me, even though like I was shackled and handcuffed, and he was getting treated like a terrorist. But at the same time, he was like he didn't feel like I was a threat. I was talking to him. He spoke English. Um,
Was he
he
American?
no, he wasn't American. He was Israeli, but he could understand English and he could speak broken English, and
Mm-hmm.
you
And I
could tell
ask
like
that
he
just
didn't
so that the
understand what he was
audience
doing.
knows
Yeah, of
a
course.
lot of IDF soldiers are Americans and they
Yeah.
grew up here, but
Hmm.
they have dual citizen, they either gain citizenship when they're young or they gain it
Yeah.
later, like they do their aliyah to Israel or
Hmm.
whatever, and then they go and serve in the IDF. So it is very common to meet Americans serving
Yeah.
in the IDF, holding these guns. And so it would have been almost luckier for you had you had an American, because an
Well,
American who
an
grows up here.
American is the one who he hit the other journalist with a gun, and he's the one
Wow.
who blindfolded all of us.
All
Yeah.
right, well, never mind what I just said. I guess it's not luckier. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking if you grow up in America, you understand American values, you understand American freedoms, press
Of course.
freedoms, you understand these things because you were raised with it. But apparently not. Apparently, they go over there and they forget that and they say it doesn't matter, all for
Yeah.
Israel. And so we'll just
Hmm.
beat you up. And we don't
That's
care about
exactly
that
right.
kind of stuff over here. Wow. Okay.
But
Okay.
this soldier who brought me to the jail, you could tell he was like kind of confused why he had a white American journalist shackled up and blindfolded, and he was bringing him to a jail. Like you could tell he didn't. This is something he never does. He only does this to Palestinians. So like he didn't really he wasn't used to having like a normal guy his age, American from New York, journalist, being treated like a terrorist. So he gave me a toothbrush. He gave me soap. He gave me like a face towel. He gave me that like that little blanket for the cell, and you could tell like he kind of he asked. He's the intelligence officer. The guards are under him. Obviously, he has more authority than them. So he's telling the guards to like get him a bag with a toothbrush and all these things and give them to me. So I was given these things, I think, only because I was American.
Okay. So you had those in your cell from the beginning.
He gave me a little like like a deli bag, like a plastic shopping bag with a toothbrush, toothpaste, and like a face cloth.
Okay, got it. So then you're in this cell now for 24 hours, knowing that the next day you're going to go back to court. And
Hmm.
was this when you were given the pudding finally? Was like during this
No,
24-hour stretch?
no,
No, you still weren't given any food at this point?
no, only water.
Okay. Um, what was that like, the confinement? You said that this was so different for you than anything you'd ever experienced. I mean, some people are thinking, "Oh, I would give anything for 24 hours of silence," like the people
Oh,
right now with all their kids running around and they're thinking, "I lock me in a cell." But
but
why?
it
What
wasn't really
makes it different?
silence. It wasn't really silence. Like like I wasn't talking, but I could hear everything going on outside of my cell. Like I could hear, soldiers laughing with each other, them yelling at other prisoners, them screaming at other prisoners, them demanding people go places, them directing people go places, them small talk between different guards, all in Hebrew. So like it's truly like I'm in a dream. I can't understand a word anyone says at any time. Um, and I'm just sitting there. I do a lot of pacing. I try to like not to. I don't want to stay still, so I'm just walking from back and forth in my cell. Um, I I try to sleep. I don't like it was like there's nothing to do. I wasn't given books. I wasn't given food. I don't have anything to do. You can sit, you can think, you can pace. That's all you can do. And I'm pacing back and forth. And I'm thinking. I'm like, okay. They said in court it's 25 years to life or something like that. And I'm thinking like, well, I'm American, so like let's just say it's 10 years. I'm like, okay, I'll get out of jail. I'm 38. Like I'm like truly thinking that I'm going to be there forever, or like for years. Like it's really
Yeah. What?
frightening.
So sorry. Go back to that. So in court, when you were in court and your attorney was
Yeah.
talking, what? And so you said that the judge didn't really believe what the prosecution was
Hmm.
saying and kind of was like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys get one day.
Top
But
secret.
what
Yeah.
were they told you, was it just this one charge? Were there more charges? And what were the potential? And at that point in court, did they tell you what the potential sentencing would be for those crimes?
They said it's 25 years to life.
25 years to life for one crime. It was one charge.
Yeah. It was one charge of but this is like this isn't a charge. This is a charge that they give enemies of the state. This is a different like a different book of
Right, but I
laws that
just
they're
wanna
using.
clarify, it was one charge, but the charge was
One
so
charge.
serious, they were
Yes.
saying
Mhm.
25, 20. So you hear in court, I mean, what was going through your mind when you heard, did you hear that, or was it in Hebrew and you didn't understand
No,
it?
I had someone sitting next to me that knew the lawyer that spoke English, and she would like whisper things in my ear of things that people were saying. Like, so it wasn't a true translation, but like if someone raised their voice, it would be like what did they just say? And she would tell me. So she told me what the possible punishment was.
And what went through your mind when you heard 25 years to life?
I mean, like obviously, like I went back and forth from thinking like I'm an American journalist. They can see I have hundreds of bylines. I've made tons of journalistic work. I'm not a spy. Like I know who I am and I know what I did wasn't wrong. And the first judge, I'm one for one. She doesn't really believe the police. So, and my lawyer seems pretty confident that like she'll figure it out. So like half of my time I'm thinking that, the other half I'm thinking like clearly Israel does not care about you know the opinion of the West or the world. They've been getting accused of genocide for a year and they haven't let up. If anything, they've um, pressed even harder on this stuff. Like they don't care about the opinions. So like if the whole world is saying they're not treating this journalist correctly, that's the least of their troubles. So like I know that they don't care what the world thinks. So I'm going back and forth from saying like I'll be fine. There's no way they would do this to an American. To they don't care about the fact that I'm American. They'll do this to anyone and not face any consequences.
Yeah, they killed journalists.
Yeah,
I mean, they
yeah,
do much worse. So what
exactly.
do they care? That was my thought too, when finding out that you were locked away like this. Um, I mean, I think I went through the same thinking was, how could they possibly do this to an
Mhm.
American? I mean, a journalist. But then the other thought is, yeah, but look what they do. I mean,
Yeah,
they do much
exactly.
worse and they don't care.
Mm.
I mean, they even brag about it and they don't
Yeah,
care and they face no consequences for doing much, much worse to people. So they could, this is what was so frightening for those of us watching your whole ordeal was just knowing that they will do that they don't have any, there's no consequences on Israel and they seem to be able to just get away with doing whatever they want and they do whatever they want. this so-called Western democracy.
And it's probably the
Um,
worst place. It's the worst place to be an American arrested because it's the only place in the world that um, America allows to do whatever they want. If it was some African country, if it was Russia, if it was China, even if it was some European country, like America would not stand for that. They would make a big deal about it. They would
right,
flex their muscle. And this is the only country in the world that America is not willing to flex their muscle. So it's a really
right.
scary place to be arrested.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now it's 24 hours. You're hearing it's
Hmm.
like chaos outside of the door. Every 30, 40 minutes, they're flashing
Hmm.
a flashlight in the
Or
room.
they're just turning the lights on.
Um, they just turn lights on. So do they control the light above? They control the fluorescent light?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So you're not even able to get sleep when you want sleep. You don't get to decide.
No, I don't get to. I mean, they don't turn it on, for 20 minutes. They flash it on for a few seconds instead of flashing the flashlight to see if I'm still there. Like it's just I don't know for what reason. It's just to bother me. I'm sure.
What about during the day? I mean, during daylight, during daytime, do they leave the light on or is it dark the
Yeah,
whole
during the
time you're
day.
in the
No,
room?
no, during the day the light is on.
So they have certain hours where then they turn the light off,
Yeah,
supposedly, but then they flicker
nighttime
it
now.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then they flicker it on every 30, 40 minutes.
hmm
Okay.
exactly.
So it's like torture.
Yeah, like
It's
mentally,
a form of
that's
torture.
exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And they have no problems doing this to you, apparently. Like there's yeah,
No, I mean,
okay.
they would I'm like the embassy apparently sent a social worker to the prison to check on me. Very nice of them. And
Okay.
the social worker comes. The social worker, it's an Israeli social worker, and she says I'm a social worker. I said, oh my god, that's great. I thought she was going to say if do I need food, do I need water, what do I need, how are they
Right.
treating me, checks and balances. She says, why'd you do this? Why you hurt Israel? So she berates me. She asked me why I hurt Israel. She asked me, do I love Israel? She does not ask me if I need anything, if I want anything. It's just another cop. It's another agent, another Israeli who
And
thinks that I hate Israel.
which which embassy?
This is the American embassy. They did me the
The
favor of
American
sending me.
embassy.
Yes.
And so is she, so I'm confused. So she's Israeli, obviously, but is she also American? Is she an American Israeli working for the
No, no, no,
American
no, no,
embassy?
no,
Who
no, not
is
at all.
this person?
This is just a Israeli social worker that takes orders from the prison, and I'm sure I guess the embassy called the prison, and the prison said we'll send somebody to check on him, and this is who they sent.
Okay. Wow.
So,
Somebody who berates you. Do you
and
love Israel? Why'd you do
I
this?
said I don't I think they're going to let me out soon because the court said that they only have 1 day, not 6. So it looks like things are kind of looking up for me. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just said this to her to get her reaction. Is she going to say like, oh, they're letting you out? We're saying like they're not going to let you out. I just want to see what she was going to say. Um,
Mhm.
she said something to the effect of like she didn't believe me. She said that they're not going to let me out. I committed a really serious crime against Israel, and like obviously it was horrible to hear, but I did want to kind of check the temperature of what she thought. Um, and then she left. And so my interaction with this person who was to check my well-being was she was yelling at me for not liking Israel much, and then she said I'm going to be here for a long time.
Why would you like Israel a lot? Can I ask you, are you Jewish?
So according to them, because my mother was Jewish, I am Jewish.
Okay.
I had I had
How
the
do they
menorah
know?
when I was little
How do they know that? How would they know that?
because I told my lawyer.
Oh, you
So
told, okay. So you said my mom's Jewish.
yeah, so in court, one of the first things she says is his mother's Jewish, and that like apparently according to her is that's you need to say that. So
So that's why they were then like, how could you? So then did the social worker know that? And so she was like, why don't you love Israel? Or does she just expect all of us to love Israel no matter what?
yeah, I mean it's like well, these people are fanatics. Like they expect me to still love and be thankful for Israel as a Jew, even though I'm in
As
prison.
you're sitting in a cell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. The chutzpah, right? Okay.
No.
So, so then now 24 hours go by. Have you had any sleep at all before you go to your next court appearance?
I actually for some reason, it sounds crazy, but I'm exhausted this entire time. So like, actually, I do get to sleep. I sleep. Like I don't know what time I fall asleep. And when I wake up in the morning and I see a guard like come to check on me to see like, is he still there? I guess I say, what time is it? And they say it's 6. So like, I don't know what time I fell asleep, but all 3 times I woke up around 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you go to court the second. Is there anything else that happened, or is it now court time?
Now it's court time, and I'm in court, and um, my lawyer says
Wearing the
this
same
is
clothes, by the way? Are you still in the same clothes that you've always been in?
same clothes I've always been in. Yeah,
Mhm.
same clothes. I get there, I see my lawyer. She goes, "This is a journalist from Ynet. They came to testify on behalf of you." And Ynet, is a big Israeli publication. I said, "Oh, that's amazing. What is he going to say?" She said that he has a government press office card, and if you have a government press office card, you're mandated to go every time you publish anything on social media or on a website. You're mandated to go through the military censor if you have an Israeli press office card.
So wait, was
Um,
this person testifying on your behalf or against you?
No, testifying on my behalf, saying I published the same information as this journalist. I actually also wrote an article about his detainment where I embedded his video, and the military censor said there's nothing secret here. So why am I able
Okay.
to publish this information, but he can't? And he's a Zionist. He said, I don't agree with him, but at the end of the day, he's not a terrorist. He just published information that I was able to publish. And if your argument is that he can't publish information, it's not true. He showed the judge the conversation he had with the IDF censor of them saying there's nothing secret here. And so the judge said, well, if he can publish it, I don't understand why he's still here. He should no longer be detained. And the judge said, don't detain him anymore. Set him free. And the police
Wait a minute.
have one.
Who
Go ahead.
first before you get to that,
Yeah.
who told this I mean, first of all, props to this journalist, right? Props
Yeah.
to this journalist for being a Zionist, not agreeing with you, yet still
Hmm.
standing up for
Truly.
journalistic integrity, which is
Yeah.
what all journalists should be doing. That should be
Hmm.
first and foremost. Doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with people. We have to stand up for the actual practice of journalism and free speech. And that's what this person did. So props to them for doing that. How did they find out about this and who sent them there?
At this point, I think it was publicized because the embassy, someone from the embassy came. It was publicized that an American journalist was arrested and being detained and charged with aiding and giving information to an enemy. I think at this point, I'm not on the internet, but I think people around Israel, especially journalists, understand what happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was making, we were definitely all talking about it. So
Yeah.
everybody was on social media and
Mhm.
making a stink about it. But you don't know like who contacted or you don't know if they just did this on their own, if they were like, well, we got to go do something and talk to them, or if they
No, I have no
were
idea.
prompted
I have no
by,
idea how
okay,
he
so you have
found
no
out or
idea how
anything.
this guy, okay,
No.
but he's there and he's there for you.
Yeah,
And that's
he's
great.
there. It's really great. Yeah, it's really nice of him.
So
The
yes. So the
the, the
judge, the judge then says, all right, then let him
yeah,
go.
and they have 1 hour to appeal the decision. The police. So I was told by my lawyer they're going to take you back to prison right now, and they're going to wait to see if they appeal it or not. And
Okay.
the hour passes. I'm taken back to the prison. I'm signing papers to get some of my stuff back and to leave prison. And I'm pen to the paper actively. And a few guards walk up to me. They say something to each other. Loffredo, I just hear my name. They say something in Hebrew, and they um, like perp walk me back to my solitary confinement cell. I don't know why. I thought I was leaving. Now I'm in a cell. They won't talk to me. They close the door. Now I'm in the cell. So I'm assuming like they appealed it, even though the court allowed the police to appeal the decision after the window for appealing closed. They allowed them to retroactively appeal it, even though it was
Because
over.
this was the hour was over.
Yes,
This is like into the second hour, or was this even more hours after that?
this is probably almost 2 hours into it. So
Yeah,
an
and then
hour
they
had
decided
passed.
to appeal
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Hmm.
So they
And the court allowed it.
appealed and the judge
Yeah.
allowed, and now you're back in the cell and you're
So now I'm back in
thinking,
the cell,
wow,
and I'm back in the cell, and now I don't talk to my lawyer, so I don't know why I'm back in the cell. I'm just assuming they appealed it. Like I don't know what happened. I don't know when my next court appearance is. I don't know anything. I'm just back in the cell. And around like like when I would go to sleep, like that night, they come to my door at the cell, they open it, and like two plainclothes detectives walk up to me and they tell me to come with them. And I walk with them and I say, "Where are we going?" And they say the name of the police compound in Hebrew, and I don't know the name, so I don't know what they're saying. I don't know where I'm going. We go outside, undercover cop car. I get in. One Israeli detective is driving. One Israeli is sitting next to me. It's dark out, and they're driving. They're driving east. They're driving like into the West Bank. They're driving back to the military compound where I was first detained at.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "What are we doing?" They say, "Interrogation." So it's like the middle of the like it must be 9 or 10 at night. Interrogation, and that makes sense because let me just back up a little bit. The judge, after the first court appearance, the judge said, "We gave you a day. Did you learn anything new? Did you interrogate him?" And they said, "Well, we didn't learn anything new." She said, "Did you interrogate him?" They said, "No." And the judge was like, "Well, if he's such a threat, why didn't you use this day that I gave you to ask him more questions?" And it looked really bad for them. So they appealed the decision, and they took me that night to the police military compound in the West Bank for interrogation. I'm wondering what questions they're going to ask. I'm thinking, okay, they have my cell phone. Finally, they're going to ask me questions about what they found on my cell phone. So I'm going to have to I no longer can, because if you have someone's cell phone now, you're kind of in their head. You know what they think, you know their opinions, you know who they were talking to. When before it was just me arguing why my video did not break the law. So now it's now I have to defend why I said Israel is this, why I texted this person this, why I sent this meme to this person. Do I think this? It's going to be much more personal. But we get there, we have the interrogation, and I'm kind of thinking now, they're asking me the same questions as the first time. They're asking me if I know about the military sensor, why I made the video, why I showed where the missiles dropped, why I thought it was important, who told me to make the video, do I know anyone in a foreign military? And I'm thinking to myself that they must not have anything. They're asking me the same questions. It looks like they're just interrogating me because they want to hold me here, and they need it to make it look like to the court that they're working, they're doing something. Mm-hmm. So they're asking me the same questions. They take a DNA swab, they take all my fingerprints, and then they send me back they drive me back to solitary confinement. So I'm thinking I think that was good because they didn't ask me any new questions. I guess they don't have anything. So I'm thinking okay. And they tell me at the thing, I say, when I'm going back to court? And they say, tomorrow morning you're going to the district court because we appealed it. So it goes to a higher court. So now I have a little information of what's happening next, at least. Mm-hmm. So I'm brought back to solitary confinement. I spend my third and last night there.
And it was the same. Was it chaotic and them turning the lights on and off? And
no, no, it was late at night by the time I got back. So it was quiet. Everyone was sleeping. There's only a few guards, and they just put me back in the prison. They shut the door. It was dark, and I went to sleep.
Okay. And then the next day, did you go back to court?
Yeah, I went back to court the next day. That's the morning that they gave me chocolate pudding.
Oh, finally. So so did you tell the judge, by the way, hey, by the way, they're not giving me any food?
I told my lawyer. I told my lawyer that, and I told my lawyer that I don't have proper translators, and they're having me sign transcripts after interrogations that are typed up in Hebrew. So she's telling the judge this. She's telling the judge they're not feeding me in prison. So I don't know. She's saying this. I don't know what anyone's saying because they're speaking Hebrew.
Yeah.
But I get taken back to the court. Now this is a fancy court. It's in a nicer part of Jerusalem. It's a further car ride away because this is after the appeal decision. Now it goes to the district court.
This is okay. Okay.
So at this point, I've had Leah. I've told her listen, just look for all of the times that Israeli media published exactly what I published, but before me, just try to explain to the judge that nothing I did was new, and in more detail and sooner than me, Israeli media published what I did. This is clearly political. This is clearly because of our editorial stance, not because of the actual information in our work. And so she says this. The judge says, "Did you learn anything new? You interrogated him last night. What did you learn?" And they're like, "We didn't. We're still working on getting in his phone. but we haven't actually learned anything new from interrogating him. And so the judge says, okay, well, I give you permission to keep his phone, keep his laptop for 10 days, keep his passport, and he's mandated to come to your military compound whenever you want to interrogate him over the next 10 days. And you can use the next 10 days to build your case, but there's no reason to keep him in detention because like you're not learning anything from him and he's not a security threat. It doesn't seem because you're not, just let him go. And so that happened. So I spend the next 10 days, I leave there.
So you're happy, right? You're out of there, but you have 10 days.
I'm ecstatic, but I'm scared because like I'm out now, but they have my cell phone. And so like my cell phone, anything could be, I know who I'm dealing with. Like anything could be construed as like illegal, of course.
Yeah,
so like
right.
I'm talking to people in the West Bank who know people in the resistance, and I call it the resistance. They call them terrorists. And like that's political. Is that support for terrorism? Like I don't know how they're going to say anything. I know that's like valid journalistic work, but like they think I'm a terrorist already. So there's that. There's times where I gave money to people on GoFundMe who were raising money for people in Gaza to like buy a new tent or something. So who knows if someone who I gave money to has like a distant connection to someone in a terrorist group, and they could get me for that. Maybe I've called it a genocide, or maybe I texted people, links to what the Iranian government said about a specific issue, and now it looks like I'm supporting a terrorist state. It's just there's so many things in a cell phone.
Construe.
Yeah,
sure.
So I'm scared that they have my phone. But now that night, I can speak to my lawyer at length. Instead of 1 minute, I can go to her house, which I did, and I explained to her everything that they might find in my phone, what I would say if I was interrogated about certain things in the phone. I gave her information about the video, different places where that information was published. Like we got to speak for hours when before we were only able to speak for a few minutes. So it was really productive.
When you were let out, so the judge orders you to be let go. Are you let go right then and there? Or did you have to go back to, because they said that they were going to keep your things, right? So did you get to go back? Did you go back to the jail at all to get any belongings? Did
I
they
was
like at least your
put
wallet
in,
or something?
I was put in like a police military van and driven back to the prison. And in the prison, they gave me my boots back. And they gave me they just gave me my boots back actually. Cause at the prison is where my boots were. No, because my wallet, my phone, my laptop, my clothes, all my belongings were on my back because I was not staying at a hotel at the time. I was planning to stay in the West Bank. And so they have everything I own at the police compound in the West Bank. The prison only had my boots. So they gave me my boots back. And the police said, we're going on holiday. You can't come to get any of your things. Well, we're keeping your phone, your laptop, and your passport. But if you want your clothes back and that type of stuff, you can come after the holiday because it's Shabbat. So I have to wait 2 days to get that stuff.
Okay. So then from there, they release you, but you're at this prison, and you don't have a phone. So where did you go? You walk out,
Well,
are they giving you a ride somewhere or what?
No. Well, thankfully, I've made friends in Israel from being there, for a combined time of maybe 4 months. So like different activists and different journalists and just people I've met, they came to my last court hearing, like two friends that I've made. And
How did they know about what time it was? How did they get any information?
I think it is like relatively like open. Like it's
Okay,
I
so they
think the
can
public can
search.
go if they know about it. Yeah, you just go on like the
Okay.
municipal website or something.
So they figured it out.
And
They were like, okay,
and
this is his
they
court
know the
hearing, so we're
people
going to
who
be
I
there.
was detained with. They know the people who I was detained with. So they probably know
Okay.
who my lawyer was. They call her and ask something like that. So they came to my hearing, and after it was done, they said, "Listen, you can stay at our house during these 10 days. It's totally fine." So they pick me up. They drive me to their house. They get me a toothbrush and toothpaste. They put me in a room like they put me up. It was really nice of them.
So at that point, how you don't have your phone. I don't have any numbers memorized. So,
No.
like these days. So were you able to how did you start contacting your family? I mean, I would imagine
Yeah.
the first phone call, you need to call your mom, right? You need to call your
Of course.
family and tell them
Mhm.
that you're okay. Because you haven't spoken to them at all this whole time. So you don't
I've not
know.
spoken to them at all, at all. my lawyer at some point during my detainment made contact with my father. So my dad knew what was going on, and like obviously my friends who were on Twitter, they understand what's going on at that point. But I know my dad's number by heart. I know a few friends' numbers by heart. So I use one of their cell phones. I make a few calls as soon as I get back to their house. I just like
Got
explain
it.
what had happened.
Okay. Okay. And
I had my brother and people at the Gray Zone. I had them PayPal money to someone who I was with, and then they were able to put in their bank account and then withdraw it. And so they were able to send me cash. So I had money within a few days, and I used that money to buy a burner phone. And then I was able to use like WhatsApp under a fake number, like an Israeli number, and then I was able to contact people
right,
like for real.
under this burner phone, yeah, you were
Yeah.
able to start contacting people.
Mhm.
So for 10 days, you're living like with this burner phone in this apartment with these
Mhm.
people that you
Yes.
did you know them very well? You said that they
I
were
mean,
your
I've never been
friends,
to their
but
house. I've met them
uh-huh.
like maybe twice, but like I'd never
Okay.
been inside their home or anything. But I was just happy to be out of prison. But at the same time, I had my fingers crossed. I'm knocking on wood. I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but I want to be prepared if it does happen, if we get called back in for interrogation.
So you're also probably being really careful these 10 days of who you contact and what you say. I would imagine
Yes.
that it was
I mean,
pretty
even my
frightening.
lawyer, I'm talking to my lawyer before I actually go to her home, and I'm saying, okay, the phone, I feel like, and she's like, no, 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 no. Come to my house, nothing over the phone, nothing at all over the phone. Come to my house and we'll talk about this. So like, this isn't some paranoid friend. This is the lawyer who's dealt with the system for 40 years telling me not to say anything over the phone. So like, who knows better than her, which made me more careful, more paranoid, but like also to take the situation like with the same gravity that she obviously understands it should be taken with.
Yeah. So during this time, because we knew that you were out and that you had to stay there for 10 days, but you
Mhm.
were still pretty much not in much contact with the world, it seemed like.
No.
You were probably laying low. You were laying low.
Yeah. I was laying low. I was laying low. But after one day, so I had that conversation with my lawyer, preparing to be interrogated again, but like hoping I don't get interrogated again, hoping that they don't find anything. They know I'm just a journalist. They just kept me for 10 days just to punish me because they don't like my politics and blah blah blah.
Right.
But second day, I get a call from Leah, my lawyer, that says they want you there tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. I'm like, okay, so I guess it's not over. It's not what I thought. So I get a taxi to this police compound in the West Bank. It's far out there. They drop me off. I walk in, and there's a woman sitting there. She says, "I think I'm here for you," and she's speaking English. I say, "What do you mean?" She says, "I'm a translator." I say, "Wow,
Oh,
they called in a translator to talk to me today. Like this is going to be a serious conversation. This sucks." But then she says they actually called me in on Thursday night, but I wasn't able to make it. I'm like, okay, well that's good. It's not she didn't only get called in for tonight. She's been called in before. She just
yeah,
couldn't make it, so it doesn't mean
right.
anything. So
So
I
during these
yeah,
interrogations,
go
I
ahead.
mean, your attorney knew that these interrogations were going to happen. Was your attorney allowed to be in the room with you?
No, not allowed to be in the room
What
with
in the
me.
world?
I would talk to her
Okay.
before I would go there. I would talk to her on the phone before I
Yeah.
went, or I would be at her office before I went. And then I would get there and they say, "Do you want to call your lawyer?" And I'm thinking to myself, like, I was with her, an hour ago, but yes, I'd like to call my lawyer. And I say, about to get interrogated. She's, she knows. I saw her before I left, but they only allow us to talk for 30 seconds. The guy comes in, he stands above me. He says, okay, 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 like as if to say, like, hang up the phone. That first interrogation out after I left, it lasted from 10:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m.
What? What in the world were they asking?
They asked me,
And were they
um,
interrogating you the whole time, or were they holding you in the room?
no, interrogation the whole time. The guy who was interrogating me probably was as tired of it as I was. Like he did not stop. He left one time to have a cigarette, and then he came back. Like it was the entire day. Um,
I mean, what could
do you
they
know anyone?
possibly ask you for an entire day?
Well, now I'm thinking like, okay, now this is going to be about the cell phone. They start off with questions that I've answered before. Do you know anyone in a foreign military? Are you familiar with Israeli censorship laws? Why did you do this? Why did you put the exact locations of the missiles? And like all of these answers, it's like, oh, I put the locations because I'm a journalist, and providing as much information, as much context to the viewers and the readers is really important. As would any journalist would say this. Also, PBS NewsHour, ABC News, Haaretz, the Jerusalem Post, They've all done the same reporting and provided more context than I did. I don't understand why I'm here. They all did the same thing. Like I was a mile outside this Nevatim air base, and the mainstream media in Israel and in America was publishing satellite images from inside the base showing the damage that the missiles caused. So like if the problem is that I was too close to a sensitive military base, but I only posted videos and documentation of the missiles from a mile outside the base, the mainstream media is posting videos and pictures from inside the base. This is so much more information than I had in my video. It doesn't make sense. It's just a giant contradiction. But I'm saying this, and they use the obvious thing, the argument to me. They say, so if everyone murders people or everyone breaks the law, it's okay for you to break the law. I said, well, we learned in court, according to the judge and according to that Ynet journalist, that I actually wasn't breaking the law and that no one's breaking the law with this information. And he says, well, we actually reached out to the military censor after that day in court, and they said they only approved of his reporting because you had already reported it. So it wasn't secret because it was out because of you. I said, but it wasn't out because of me. I only knew where to go because this was published by Israeli mainstream media 5 days before me. It just doesn't add up for me.
Right.
And he says, it's fun. This is a funny little question. He says, so you went to journalism school, you took classes, you had professors, you did reading and writing about the practice of journalism. You're a professional. You're telling me in your studies, you never learned the importance of a government censor. I said, we have the First Amendment. Like I really didn't. I didn't have any classes or anything about the importance of government
You're like,
censor.
I'm American.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Sorry. He was,
It's against the Constitution.
I believe him. Like the military censor in Israel plays such a large role in the press and in the news that like it was hard for even him. He was born in Israel to like picture a system where like the journalists aren't aware or aren't subject to a government censor. Like it was a genuine question, which is even crazier.
Well, it goes to show. The States is unique. We are unique in having our First Amendment. It is extremely important to have.
Yes.
And I think it's also an important point to remember that when we do go to foreign countries, we have to remember they have different laws, they have different rules, and we have to try. It's hard to find out what all of them are before we go to these foreign countries so that we make sure we don't break their laws. But unfortunately, in Israel, this is one of their laws that the journalists do have to go through a government censor before they can publish certain things.
I said like I'm aware that Israel has a government censor, and so but this isn't me admitting that I broke the government censor laws. It's me just saying I know you have one. I just thought that this was public information because your entire media apparatus was reporting the same information as me.
Right. Yeah. So you thought it was cleared.
Yeah.
That's how you found everything. Yeah. So so he's asking you all these questions. I just can't imagine somebody interrogating you for this long. Did they go through your phone?
He's playing semantics. Like he's asking the same questions over and over again, different ways. And I see him typing because he's also the transcriber. He's typing, he's backspacing, he's thinking, he's typing, he's backspacing. It's like I'm saying yes, but a giant caveat. I'm answering these questions in a very certain, very specific way, very deliberate. And you could tell he's typing something else. So like I'm doing all of this and I'm nervous that like I'm going to sign this transcript soon and I'm not going to be able to read it because it's in Hebrew, and then it's going to go to a judge and it's going to look like to the judge that I said something entirely different. And at a certain point he said, no, yes or no questions. Yes or no answers. So like I would say yes, blah, 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 blah. And he would just type in yes. Like he wouldn't even allow me to answer the questions how I wanted to, which isn't how an interrogation should be.
So at the end of this interrogation, so you're there all day. They finally let you go from this interrogation?
Yeah, it ends in a very chaotic way. So I kept mentioning this PBS NewsHour interview that has maybe 4 million views by this time on Twitter or X. And I keep telling him, this guy for PBS NewsHour, he has a GPO card. Of course, this is a giant news organization. He was at the scene of the missile attack in Tel Aviv the night of October 1st. He showed the crater. He said what time it was. He said exactly where he was. He pointed behind him and he said, that building behind me, that's the Mossad headquarters, about 2,000 feet behind me. Like,
Right. Yeah.
this is like, he shows them Mossad headquarters. He says how far away it is. Like, this is all information that you're telling me that I wasn't able to say, but he said it a week before me. So I keep referencing this PBS NewsHour video. It's very important that they know what this is. And I've referenced it so often that he ends up saying like PBS, PBS, PBS. Like, he won't even let me talk about it
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, right. So he gets
And he
fed up with the
doesn't.
fact that you're pointing out facts.
Yes. And so it ends with him saying, I say like, Max Blumenthal, my friend and editor, sent me this video on October 2nd and said, maybe check out Tel Aviv. It looks like there's craters there. And they say, what did he send that to you on? I say, I think it was iMessage or maybe WhatsApp. They say, what was the date? I say, it was definitely October 2nd. They say, okay. And they leave. They come back. You sure it was WhatsApp? You sure it was iMessage? You sure it was that date? Like, as if they're looking through my phone, coming back. You know, they're trying to like mess with me. And I say, yeah, I know it was iMessage. I know it was October 2nd. And they're getting angry. I don't know if it's real or fake anger, but they're trying to make it seem like they're leaving, looking at my phone, coming back. Very chaotic. And finally, they say, you guys can both leave, me and the translator. So we leave, and I don't understand. Like, I know now I'm definitely going back. That did not end how I would have liked it to end if I wanted to feel like I never have to go back. Like, they have more questions. I'm going to be here again very soon. The next morning, we get a call, and they say, Leia, we want Mr. Loffredo to come in. We want him to unlock his phone, and we want him to show us the texting conversation with Max Blumenthal, where Max Blumenthal sent him the PBS NewsHour video, and we want to click on the video and we want to watch it. So, like,
So they were going in and out of the room, acting like they were checking your
yes.
phone, but in reality, they couldn't even get into your phone.
They, who knows if they could or couldn't, but like, they weren't in it. They were not in my phone. And so I'm like, this is so strange. They told the court that they were in my phone already. And now I'm learning that like, they need me to put in my passcode. Like, it's so strange. So I say, okay, I'm going to go there. I go back. They ask me to unlock my phone. I hold my phone like closer towards me because I don't want them to see like my passcode or anything. I put in my passcode, and I put in my passcode wrong by accident. And it said phone disabled for 15 minutes. So it means that like, they've been like incorrectly putting it, trying
They'd
my
been
passcode.
trying, right? Yeah. They tried a few times. Okay.
And I said, it looks like you guys tried. He said, no. I said, no, I mean, like, that's the only way that this would happen is if you incorrectly put my passcode in. He said, no, we didn't. I said, I mean, okay. So we waited. I opened the phone for them. I showed them the conversation, October 2nd. Look, the exact video, the exact text, the exact date I said it would be. He clicks on it because now it's obvious. Like, I keep talking about this PBS NewsHour video, and it seems like they don't believe me that it even exists. Like, they say we want to see it sent to you, and we want to click on it. Like, and we want to watch it. So like, it seems like they can't find the video. It seems like they are censored. I can watch the video in Jerusalem. They can't watch the video or find the video at their police headquarters in the West Bank. It's just strange. So I bring a when I go to unlock my phone, I also bring with me a frame by frame PBS NewsHour video, the video with a Hebrew transcription, Hebrew subtitles, so they can look at it on paper. And I'm thinking to myself, they obviously have seen this video already. I brought up 1,000 times, but I'm just going to bring this to them so they can see it in Hebrew. It seems like they haven't seen it. I don't know. It's really strange because I keep talking about it, and these are professional detectives. And he sees the paper.
Right.
He sees the paper and he looks at it like he's seeing something he's never seen before. He's flipping through it. He's typing things. He's highlighting things. And I'm like, what is happening? Has he not seen this video before? It's so strange. And he goes to my phone. He clicks on the PBS NewsHour link. It takes him to X, and it says content unavailable. So now I'm like, okay, they have not seen this video. They think I'm lying about this PBS NewsHour video simply because they aren't able to find it, it seems.
Strange.
It's really, really, really weird. And like, so I leave. He takes a video of him clicking on my phone and the video won't be played. But he sees the thumbnail. He sees the video exists, but not for him. And he has like the paper I gave him with the frame by frame video that I'm talking about. It's just so, he sees that it exists. It's real. I leave. Now it's the Sukkot and Shabbat. They have 5 days off. They're not there. I go back, kind of confused, what just happened. And I know that I won't hear from them until the 20th, which is the day I'm supposed to either be rearrested or able to leave. So
yeah.
I have 5 days of no contact from the police. So I used that time to put together a giant dossier in my lawyer's office of all the times that the Israeli media or the American media inside of Israel reported exactly what I reported in more detail before me. Like it was like 15 pages. Ynet, Washington Post, PBS NewsHour, NBC, New York Post, like all of these things, Haaretz, like with screenshots of their websites and pictures that they included that were, if I was breaking the law, they're clearly breaking the law. And I'm just using, but we don't think they're breaking the law because all these people are subject to the censor. So that's the
Yeah,
main
so you think
point.
they went through the censor. Meanwhile, little do you know, the PBS guy that you kept bringing up is in the cell next to you now,
Yeah,
like getting interrogated. We're
that's
thinking,
funny.
oh, well, he's the first guy, so now we got to go after him. So I guess it was that. And that's why they couldn't find the video. The government censors took it down, and now he's in jail. Way to go, Jeremy.
So it seems like I read that like in one of Julian Assange's books, he talks about this, and he says in Great Britain and in China, the first networks and first computers that the censor blocks content on are the police and are the politicians to save their own ass. So this isn't even a political thing. These are censors saying we don't want our bosses to yell at us for not censoring the right videos, so we'll just censor them on their computers. So they can never yell at us. We can't get reprimanded for not censoring the right things because they won't even know that these videos exist.
Okay.
So,
Very
I mean, I think
bizarre.
something like that happened. I don't know exactly what
Yeah.
happened, but I went back. I sent a dossier of all the information that sort of clears myself. I sent them an MP4 file of the NBC of the PBS NewsHour video, so you don't need the internet. You can actually watch the video. Finally, I sent them the letter of support from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., where he
Oh,
reiterated his support for Israel, but also told them to send me home, which was like important. I think that was more valuable than like if some liberal or leftist or like he reiterated his support for Israel in the same tweet where he called for my release. So that was important.
so this was like the one time it was good that RFK Jr. was a
Exactly,
Zionist, right?
exactly. It was like I
This is the
honestly
one
I'm
time it
glad that
paid
yeah,
off. Okay.
exactly. It was like because we know that the judges are Zionists and the people deciding what happens with me are Zionists. So having Ilhan Omar say something about me is honestly less valuable to an Israeli
Right.
court than a prominent Zionist in America. Um,
Yeah.
so we sent them everything.
So did
I'm
he,
just
you said that he wrote, so are you, because I saw him posting something on Twitter. Did he
mhm.
also write an official letter or anything like
No,
that? Or
no,
was it, or
no.
you took the
It
Twitter?
was just his tweet, but we like in Hebrew translated it to Hebrew, sent it to the police, explained who it was, sent
Yeah.
that the
Okay.
dossier, the video, everything, and that was kind of like my final
Wow.
hail mary. Like if you still think I'm guilty after seeing all this stuff, I guess I am. I don't know. So the 20th comes, and we get a call from the police, and they say, "Can Mr. Loffredo book a sooner flight out of the country?" And she says, of course. And she calls me. I have my burner phone. She says, we need you to book a sooner flight. I say, I don't have my wallet. This phone barely works. She says, go to my office, sit down at a computer at the law office, and book a flight. So I do that. It was the fastest I've ever booked a flight. I booked it. She sent them the flight information. And then after that, they went incommunicado until I left. Like we did not hear from them ever again. So we sent them the flight information. She says, they asked you to book a flight. Let's give someone power of attorney and see if they can go pick up your phone, passport, and laptop. So we did that. We sent someone to go pick these things up, and we didn't know if they were going to get them, and they gave them to them. So now I have a flight they told me to book, and they gave me my passport back and my phone and my laptop. So I'm
And
like,
how soon was your flight from the time that you booked it, that you're sitting at the
so
computer? Like how many hours before
she
the
gets the
flight would
phone call,
leave?
and I booked the flight on Sunday around 11 a.m. and the flight I book is the next day at 1:30 p.m.
Okay. Was it
Um,
expensive? I mean, I would imagine a next day flight out cost a fortune.
yeah, no, it was really expensive, but it was so it was
You're
like
like,
I'm getting
best
out of
money
here.
I've ever spent.
I'm
Best
getting out
money
of
ever
here
spent.
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
She reaches out to the detectives or the army, and she says, "Can you give us a letter simply saying that Jeremy is allowed to leave the country, so he doesn't get held up at the airport, so he doesn't face any so he can actually leave?" They did not answer. They stopped answering. They went incommunicado. They have not talked to us since. The case is still open. I went to the airport just hoping they'll let me leave. I bring my passport. I have my flight. I'm interrogated a couple times at the airport.
Like
What
normal
you do here?
interrogations, or would you say, because like
It was a
everybody
little
kind of has to
more.
go through these normal, okay, it was a
It was
little,
more than I've ever had at Ben Gurion Airport. It was. I was asked, what do you do? I said, I'm a journalist. They say, what kind of videos do you make? I said, I made one video while I was here.
but
They
I
said, oh,
mean,
violent. Go ahead.
when they asked you these questions, was this like at the, you know, how when you give them your luggage and they interrogate you there, like at the check-in counter, or,
No,
you
they
know,
scanned my
there's like,
passport. They told me to stay
uh-huh,
still, and some people
uh-huh.
came to talk to me. Like definitely like a red
Oh,
dot came
okay.
up or something. I don't know. So
Okay. So
they
this was a good
know
tip.
that I've had a problem with the
Hmm.
law just now. Yeah, or an
Hmm.
ongoing problem with the law. And so they say, so you were here for 3 weeks and you only made one video. Why? So well, I got arrested. I was in prison. Like I couldn't make anything else. They said, okay. They were like, okay, that's fair enough. And then they Googled my name and they saw the articles that said on the 20th, I'll figure out what I'm doing. And they saw that I had my passport back. And like, they kind of just put two and two together. And they understood that. Um, so it was fine. The airport was fine. I got on the plane and took off. And like, I see that it was like they've been doing it more often. It's called an informal deportation. So like they can't actually charge me with anything, but they never want me to come to the country again. So they just like tell me to get out and they leave the case
Yeah.
open. So if I ever try to come back, I'm dissuaded entirely. I would be detained immediately.
So you're never going back.
No, I can't go back.
Yeah. Well, was it a direct flight from the US? I mean, from Israel back to the United States?
No, direct flight was like $3,500, and I was like, it's not even like
Uh,
I'm not trying to get home as soon as possible. I'm just trying to get out of Israel as soon as possible. Like this
yeah.
flight could go even the other way. It could go to China first. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get out of the country. I just don't want to be in Israel anymore. So no, it stopped in Italy for
Okay.
like 12 hours, and then it went to New York. Like as
Okay.
soon as I
Okay.
landed in any other country, I was just as happy as like, I just wanted to be out of Israel.
Yeah. You're just like, thank God, out
Yeah,
of there, gone, and never going back. And so now you're never
yeah,
going back, which is such a
truly.
shame, because you've done such great work over there, the times that you've been there, documenting the things that you've been documenting. I'm so surprised that their big beef was with this. I mean, you've documented so much crazy stuff over there and people saying the craziest things that
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they were mad that you showed like where the missiles hit. I mean, I understand because it's from their perspective of, well, you're giving, what for
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
they're saying if you show where the missiles hit, the enemy will see where they hit, and they'll be able to recalibrate their future attacks, and they'll actually be able to
right.
hit the targets because of the information that you gave them. But
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
really strange way to think
that's
of
the reasoning.
news. It's
Yeah,
a
it
strange way to think
is.
of news. It's like, so if the enemy can read the news, then every journalist is giving the enemy information.
I mean, if anything, I think that this is such an assault on the Israeli people because if I was an Israeli and they've got this government censor, the Israeli people are not being told the truth about what kind of danger they're actually in. If they're
Yeah.
being told, if the whole point of the government censor is to shield people for their protection, shielding them of this information that's really important to give them the facade that they're safer than they
Hmm.
really are. I mean, it's a sham. That is so
Yeah.
infuriating, I
Yeah.
think,
100%.
more than anything to the Israeli people who are the ones who are going to have to deal with the actual bombardment from Iran. And if they at least
Hmm.
knew that, yes, the missiles can hit and they can do
Hmm.
some damage, then that would maybe even change the sentiment of the actual Israeli population. They'd say, well, wait a minute then. I mean, if our Iron Dome isn't so ironclad, maybe we
Hmm.
should think twice about antagonizing Iran again, right? But they're not being given this information. So to me, the big assault is, they're sitting there acting like, oh, well, you helped Iran out. No, no, you got
Hmm.
what you government censors are doing is harming the Israeli people and making them believe something that is not true, making them believe they're safer than they actually are, leading them down that path to where they are radical, willing to antagonize, willing to bring on war when they don't realize that they can just get pummeled in this thing. And
And it's
that
so
to me
inefficient.
is
Like
right.
they are like you're allowing everyone to have Google and the internet, like, but you're not allowing people from inside of Israel to say certain things, but people from outside of Israel can say them, like, and they have the internet. So it's like you want this, you want to be the only democracy in the Middle East, but at the same time you want to be a closed society where your people cannot get information from outside of Israel. Um,
Yeah.
and it's also so strange that they've graduated from just this online digital censorship to like the threat of state violence and incarceration. Like it's not just digital censorship. Like they've made they've heightened the courage threshold like so high that no journalist would dare go to Israel and report critically on their war or their country. Like it's the courage threshold is so high, you have to be willing to give your life. You have to be willing to go to jail forever. And it's a really unfortunate development, because I was just getting kind of my footing there, where I was like willing to spend several months there, willing to talk to Zionist fanatics. I was willing to travel around the West Bank alone, document all sorts of things. I wanted to document violence in the West Bank, but I also was there to document. They were having last time I was there, citizens wanted to resettle Gaza. Now people in the Likud party are saying it. Now Imar Ben-Gvir, the Minister of National Security, they're holding events outside of Gaza. Now it's not like just a fringe part of the population. Now it's the government line.
Right.
So I wanted to document all these things, and I wanted to make some really interesting films. And this stupid video about this missile attack, which had no new information in it, that the Israeli media already covered, ruined my entire journalistic trips to Israel, which is really unfortunate.
It is really, really unfortunate, because people do need this information. It's valuable information. What you've been exposing over there has been just absolutely incredible, stellar work. I have no doubt, you're going to, of course, continue doing stellar work, whether you're there or not. I mean, clearly you're not ever going back, right? You're never going to go back.
No.
I mean, maybe if they actually officially close the case, right? I mean, there is a chance if they officially, I mean, what I'm not going to
If they
ask you now,
officially
because I would
close it,
imagine that,
yeah.
yeah.
If
Well,
they
I mean, what
officially
would you do?
close
Would
it,
you
I
go
would
back?
still feel, because I know that like I would be so scared. Like if
Yeah.
they close it, I go through a military checkpoint, I hand over my passport, and they say, "Sir, you have to come with us." It's like, oh, this is happening all over again. Like I decided to come here, and this is like I'm so stupid. I'm not going to do it.
That's why I was saying I'm not going to ask you now, because right now, of course, this is going to be your reaction. But maybe 10 years from now, Jeremy, you'll
No,
change
yeah,
your
truly,
mind. I
yeah,
mean, in 10 years, you
you're
might
right.
feel like, well, okay, it's fine. It's safe now. I'll
We'll see
do
what
it,
happens.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but right now you're traumatized. I mean, why wouldn't you be? That was an extremely traumatic experience, frightening, especially when you hear things like 25 years to life, especially when they're locking you in these cells. They're not even giving you water or food. They're abusing you. I mean, and here, and this is, but what an important story for you. I mean, even if there was a way for you to even make a documentary on your situation. I mean, I know you didn't film anything, you couldn't film anything, but maybe there's ways for you to find images that are similar to what you stayed in, and similar, you know what I mean? So that you can put this together in a documentary for people to see what the only democracy in the Middle East actually does, and how they treat Americans when they lock them away. The fact that they don't even give them basics like food and water, the very basics to keep a prisoner going, that they deprived you of these things. I mean, these things are so important, I think, even for people to know and to understand
And
what we're
the
actually
the
supporting.
leaders of the free world, the United States government, they said nothing.
They said nothing. RFK Jr. said something, so that was good that he said
Fair enough.
something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Have you gone into contact with the Ynet journalist? Do you know his
No,
name?
no, I didn't. I didn't know. I could get his name from my lawyer. I didn't get into contact with him though. But that's a
I
great
feel like
idea.
we should all send him a thank you. We should
Yeah.
all like flood him with on the internet, on Twitter, and say, wow, thank you for, even though you're a giant Zionist, and we don't agree
Yeah.
with you
No.
on a
Truly.
lot of
Thank you.
things, but
Yeah.
thank you for standing up for journalism and for showing up for a journalist, because that was a game changer for you, I think. And we need
No, it was.
journalists to do that.
Yeah.
That's what was so frustrating about the Julian Assange case, right? So many of these outlets were just totally silent about it. I mean, they weren't saying a word. Or even more egregious, I think, was the Jack Teixeira case. How was it the New York Times that actually acted as the henchman? I mean, they actually went out and figured out who it was that leaked these documents and said, "All right, I mean, he wasn't a journalist, but it was still a whistleblower that
Still, yeah,
they
of course.
that they went after. But I mean, we're seeing how the practice of journalism is not even being protected, that whistleblowers aren't being protected, journalists are not being protected or even cared about. And it really is, I think, a great thing that Ynet journalist stepped forward and said, I reported on this and it was
Yeah,
fine with
I
the
don't know where he
government
lives.
censor. So
He
what's
might have drove an hour to the court. Like he
right?
showed up, he sat there until he was called on. He showed the information to the judge, and like that was a defining factor. You had a Zionist Israeli journalist come and defend me in a Zionist Israeli court. It was
Yeah.
really powerful.
I think we need to find out who that guy is. And I think we need to all get together as journalists and thank him for standing up for journalism and for being one of the few these days, unfortunately, who are willing to
Truly,
do that. So props to that guy. Glad you're out, Jeremy.
thank
I
you.
was really afraid for you. I mean, I was not confident, that they would
Mm,
let you go, knowing how
yeah,
they are. They kill journalists. They detain
yeah,
people
it's
arbitrarily. They
amazing.
torture people. But you're here,
Yeah,
so
it
that's
was.
good.
I mean, it's crazy. 80 hours ago, I was thinking like, okay, maybe I'll get out for like good behavior. It'll only be 10 years long, and now I'm back at home. It's really wonderful. It's a great feeling.
Maybe I'll get out for 10 years for good behavior. I mean, the fact that you had to even
I know.
think
Yeah,
like
it's a,
that
it's a shame.
for a crime you didn't commit, for there was no
Yeah, yeah, for
crime.
nothing.
But again, you look at guys like Julian Assange, right? You look at the
Yeah.
and you see what happens, and it's, I mean, you could be innocent and it doesn't matter. It unfortunately doesn't matter when you speak up against a government. This is what happens to journalists who speak up against governments. Um, but at least you're alive. You're here, you're alive, you're back. You're not going to go back there. It just only adds, I think, more fuel to the flame of all the journalism you've done against the state of Israel, right? It's like one thing,
Hmm.
had they been really nice and had they
Hmm.
been
Of
really
course.
truly showed that they were a democracy, then maybe there could have been some doubts of like, okay, maybe it's not so bad.
Hmm.
But then the way that
Yeah.
they treated you was like, nah, they're just
No. No.
crazy. They're
Yeah.
crazy
It
terrorists.
just cemented all of my what I thought about it.
Yeah, even
Like,
more
and
so, right?
also
Like it just
I didn't really learn anything. It's not like I leave there thinking differently about Israel. I didn't leave there surprised that they would do that to me. It's like I knew that they killed journalists all the time. I'm not surprised they put me in prison for a few days. Like it's just like I'm not. I messed around and I found out like I was inside of Israel criticizing Israel, and it's like you can only do that for so long before they throw you in jail, I guess.
well, you experienced it firsthand. I mean, you'd been
Yeah.
reporting on it for so long, all the abuses and the crimes that they
Hmm.
committed, and then you got to experience it yourself. I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
they should really rethink themselves, like entirely. If everybody starts to experience,
Hmm.
I mean, half of all Palestinians have been jailed. I think it's like 50% of Palestinian population has
Yeah.
been incarcerated at some point because they just arbitrarily throw people in jail, and you ended up being another one. You
Hmm.
arbitrarily got thrown in jail for a non-crime, just like, so you got the Palestinian treatment in some
Yeah.
ways,
I got the Palestinian
that
treatment
many of them
for
have,
a few days. Yeah.
yeah, everything you've been reporting. So turns out they validated all of your claims that you made. That's all they
Truly.
did.
Yeah.
Jeremy, thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure I mean, I was going to ask you, what are you going to work on next? But maybe you're just not even thinking about that right now. Maybe you're just happy to be back. I mean, you
I'm
had all
working
these plans
on
of what you were going to work on.
in New York. I'm going to work on something in New York. I am a short drive away or subway ride away from the 15th district of New York, which is Richie Torres's district. Um,
Ah, yes.
and Richie Torres, like he's taking monthly trips to Israel, gallivanting around the southern Israeli kibbutzim with IDF, wearing an IDF dog tag. Um, and while New York 15 is the poorest district in America, and there are people barefoot, aimlessly crawling around on drugs, everything's closed. Poverty is through the roof, and Richie Torres is in Israel signing every armament and supplemental bill for Israel. So I think I just want to spend some time in the Bronx and really see what Richie Torres is doing, and it's nice and close to home. Uh, I think that's a good place to start. Truly,
I think so. All right, Jeremy.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing your ordeal with us. Again,
Thank you.
glad you're back.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
All right, guys, that is it for tonight's show. Thank you so much for watching and being here tonight and caring about Jeremy Loffredo and just all of journalism in general. Email me any of your thoughts or questions, or if you have any guest suggestions, topic suggestions. Love hearing from you guys. Kim@KimIverson.com is how you can reach me. Otherwise, we'll be back Monday with another great show, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will see you guys then. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a clip from the longer, larger show that you can catch Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. That'll route you to the platform where you need to be in order to get the full uncensored show every Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Click on that link, watch the full interview. See you there.